Okay, so let's talk a little bit about reels and some of the basic features on the reels. Kind of what we're going to go through, guys, is going to be a breakdown of reels as far as basics, gear ratio, and why it's important. And we're going to talk about, the devs have said that this doesn't necessarily impact the fish you're able to hook up with. It would affect how you're able to horse it in, but not necessarily the fish you're going to hook up with. So what I'm going to go through is real life experience based off of working in a tackle shop for a long, long time. So hopefully this alleviates some of the questions that you guys have that you've been asking, because I have so many that I couldn't get back to them all about fishing tackle and what kind of tackle should I use and what kind of rod and reel and why can't I cast far and all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about reels. So to start, in general, we're going to look just at a reel in the shop. It's a spinning reel. So in looking at the spinning reels, you guys can see them there. You'll see a few basic features, and there's spinning reels and there's casting reels, which we'll go to in the end of the video. So the main features you really want to be concerned with are the ratio, drag settings, capacity, and really that's it for now. There really isn't a lot of stuff in game that would affect it currently, from what I've read, that would affect your performance in the game. So most importantly, we're going to start with gear ratio. So as you're trying to do your presentations, let's say you're trying to do your twitching or your stop and go, etc. That is affected by your gear ratio, which you'll see at the top. On this one, it's 4.6 to 1. So the faster the gear ratio, basically the faster you're going to be able to reel. So the gear ratio basically is how many times the spool turns every time you turn the handle. So if it's like on this one, 4.6 to 1, every time you turn the handle, the spool that's inside, right here, this thing called the spool, is going to turn 4.6 times. So the higher the gear ratio, like on the Prima here, see that's 5.2 to 1, really the faster your retrieve's going to be. So really, as you look at that, that means that if you're using this reel and then you go to this reel is going to retrieve quicker. So that means you're going to have to alter your presentation for your twitch, for your stop and go, for all those things. The next most important thing is going to be your line capacity. If you're trying to put a heavier line on here than the 10-pound braid here that you're going to get 125 yards on it, you are not going to, one, you can damage your reel, and two, you're not going to get as much line on there. That means you're not going to be able to cast as far. Also, you have to consider that with these reels are designed around these capacities, so you want to use maybe a little bit lighter than 8, maybe go to a 6, and maybe a little bit more than 10, but no more, because you're going to damage your reel. Ideally, you really want to stick within this window that you're giving you. That's what the manufacturer is telling you that you should use. Pretty simple. So as you look at the next feature that's important, the max drag, you can tell when you move from this reel to this reel, the drag goes up 3.5 pounds. That's basically how tight you can set the drag and the weight that it's going to be affected by. So the more drag, the more pressure you can put on that fish. Ball bearings is really how smooth the reel is, and in some cases the durability is affected by the type and the amount of ball bearings. I don't know that that affects anything in game currently. The weight really doesn't matter. The drag front or back really doesn't matter. Those are really the big things you want to be concerned about with reels. Now, as we look at reels, I'm going to switch this so you guys can kind of read the screen a little bit easier. So lower gear ratios are going to be better for bigger baits, and typically baits that go deeper in the water. Higher gear ratios are for baits that require lots of action. Rattle traps, which are like a suspending lipless crankbait, topwater baits, jigs, plastics like Carolina rigged worms, Texas rigged worms, soft crawfish, tubes that are Carolina rigged. All those things are going to work better with high gear ratio. And then medium gear ratios are for crankbaits and typically suspending baits, which I don't think are in the game currently. Now, if you look at types of reels and what is better or what is worse, there really isn't a better or worse per se. In real life, it would matter from the ease of use, but this really doesn't factor in there. But a spinning tackle does tend to favor lighter tackle. Light jigs, spinners, rooster tails commonly, jig and twister tail presentations, lighter lures, smaller spoons, things you would catch panfish with, and small catfish, smaller bass up to maybe 5 to 8 pounds is primarily what it's spinning tackles for. Casting is designed around heavier baits like lures and crankbaits, and it typically does cast further when compared to spinning tackle. Now, I don't know that that necessarily matters in game yet, but I have a feeling it will if it doesn't. So that really are the basics, guys. Again, the devs have confirmed that it doesn't necessarily limit what you can catch by having a certain type of rod or reel or line. It just would make it more difficult or easier based off of what setup you have. So try not to get hung up on that so much. So that is it for reels. Hopefully that was helpful to you guys. Thank you for all the support. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any more questions, I'll answer them as fast as I can with other videos over the next week. Thank you. See you.